It's Sports Time to Chris. Today I have a little bit of an interesting episode. I ended up talking about the 49ers versus Saints game quite a bit more than I was expecting. And I talked about it more than the upcoming match against the Arizona Cardinals. So yeah, a little bit of an odd episode, not exactly what I was planning, but just didn't have time this week. Unfortunately, things just got away from me. So if you're like me and you would rather focus on the upcoming match against the Cardinals, I'm going to have some timestamps down below so you can just jump right to that part. But otherwise, we're going to talk about the Saints game and my reaction to that and all my thoughts related to that game, even though it was almost a week ago. So yes, please enjoy. The 49ers beat the New Orleans Saints 26-21. Here are some of my takeaways from this game. I thought the offense looked solid with Mac Jones. Surprisingly, the offense is what kind of kept the team in this game, while the defense struggled a little bit, specifically with tackling and the running game. Alvin Kamara ended up with 99 rushing yards, which was surprising. He also fumbled the ball thanks to Fred Warner. There was an interesting statistic during the game. For those who watched, you might have caught this. Against the 49ers, Alvin Kamara has 4 fumbles lost. And against all other teams, he has 3 fumbles lost. So who knows why? Maybe it's Fred Warner. Maybe it's... who knows? Very, very interesting. Going back to Mac Jones, it did take him a little while to get going, but eventually he did find a good groove. And I think that's to be expected when this is his first regular season game with the 49ers. You don't expect him to come out and look good right away. I thought it was really interesting. The game plan Kyle Shanahan was very interesting, starting off with throwing the ball on the first drive, which they went 3 and out on, and then throwing the ball to end the game as well was very, very interesting. I was criticizing that pretty heavily as it was going on. I was like, why are they throwing the ball in this situation? It just doesn't make sense when they have an all-pro running back in Christian McCaffrey that they can run with. Now, he didn't have the most spectacular game running the ball, but I'm just saying, would you rather have the ball in Christian McCaffrey's hands at the end of the game or in Mac Jones? And like I said, Mac Jones played well, and he didn't throw any interceptions. He did fumble twice, but he did not throw any interceptions. So, he didn't, on his fumble lost, he did take his time getting that pass off. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, but this is one of those gritty games that this team would have lost last year. Yeah, the Saints are considered the worst team in football, fighting for the number 1 overall pick. But the 49ers were down to their backup quarterback, wide receivers. Their all-world tight end was gone. They lost their fullback during the game and their guard, and they still pulled it out. And last year, they wouldn't have done that. Last year, this is a type of game that they lost, and I think this team offensively is going to look very scary when they can get fully healthy. Purdy, imagine, man, Purdy's going to come back. Ayuk. Now, Ayuk, I don't think it's fair to expect Ayuk to look like himself, right? He's coming off a very serious injury. I think while he may not be, I think he'll be the best receiver on the team, but I don't think he's going to be himself for a little while. George Kittle's going to come back. Robinson, totally forgot about Robinson. He'll be coming back, I don't think this week, but I think the week after that. DeMarcus Robinson. Juwan Jennings is still fighting something. So, man, this offense is going to look crazy when those guys get back. Now, the 49ers did what they were expected to do in this game, which was win the game. Yeah, it wasn't the cleanest game, but it's still a 2-0 start. Both wins coming on the road. One of them being on the West Coast, one of them being on the East Coast. These types of games are really important for building a callus, in my opinion. These are the types of games that we've seen. Now, I'm not saying that the 49ers are a Super Bowl caliber team yet, but they do have a lot of potential. And watching this offense have success without some of their big-time stars is really encouraging. You do have to give some credit to Kyle Shanahan for that, which we'll talk about in just a sec. But the last few years, we've seen teams like the Eagles and Chiefs win these types of games where maybe it's not always perfect. Sometimes it's ugly. Maybe they feel like they should be much better than the team they're playing. They kind of play down to them, but they end up getting these last minute wins or these tight wins. And I think it's really important for when you want to make a run. I mean, teams that have been dominant. Last year it was the Lions. They were just dominating everyone. And then in the playoffs, they failed. I think it's because they, as funny as it might sound, when you're too dominant, it's like you don't know how to handle it when you face adversity. You're so used to not facing it. It's like, oh, what do we do now? We're not used to this. So I think it's a really, really good thing. There is a lot of improvement for this team. Like I said, I don't know that they're going to be a Super Bowl caliber team yet. I know defensively I want to see a little bit of improvement, specifically with tackling. That was one of the most surprising things. Alvin Kamara, they had some trouble tackling. Spencer Rattler on a few plays, they had trouble tackling. And Spencer Rattler, man, I underestimated him. His first multi-touchdown game, he might actually be solid. He might actually just need some time. But I thought he looked good. No interceptions. Yeah, I definitely underestimated him. Going back to Kyle Shanahan, I'm going to start with my criticisms of him for this game, which was, why was he throwing the ball so late in the game? We've seen this with Kyle Shanahan, specifically in the Super Bowl, but in other games as well, where it's like his game management, it's like he's almost overthinking it too much. It's like he believes, oh, this team knows we want to run the ball and run the clock out, so we're going to throw the ball. And he doesn't consider, oh, what if it falls incomplete? What if there's an interception or a fumble or things don't go correctly? Very, very questionable. I was I was able to watch the game, went to my parents' house, and my dad and brother, his girlfriend, my wife, and daughter were all watching the game. And I was just sitting there like, why are they throwing the ball in this situation? I also was wondering why they were opening the game throwing the ball. They immediately went 3 and out. So very much a classic Kyle Shanahan game in that sense. Now, in between the beginning and the end of the game, I thought Shanahan did a really, really good job. He implemented some RPO plays that we don't normally see in this offense, but that's something that Mac Jones ran quite a bit. So I'm wondering if that's part of the reason why. Just knew Mac Jones was familiar with that offense, had run that offense before, and they implemented that. So I thought that was cool. And he really put Mac Jones in some favorable situations. Play calling most of the game was pretty solid, honestly. No complaints. I do wish they would have tried to establish the run a little bit more, because they threw, I think Mac Jones dropped back more than 40 times. I don't know if they just felt like the Saints secondary was weak. I mean, they did target Isaac Yiadom quite a bit. They were very familiar with him and knew Isaac Yiadom was not. I don't even remember. He was like the third cornerback last year, I think, for the 49ers. I think they knew they could go after him quite a bit. Mac Jones in this game, while I think he looked good. And that's where with this Shanahan offense, a lot of people say Purdy's a system quarterback. And what I'll say about the Shanahan offense, and I've thought this for years, ever since Jimmy Garoppolo, I always felt like Shanahan was holding him back. And that's where Brock elevates this offense. This offense baseline, their floor is a good offense when it comes to quarterback play. Like, you can expect pretty much anyone who can process a little bit, they're going to have success in this offense. Or at least they're going to have, pretty decent success. However, that's where we saw some of the limitations with Mac Jones. When things don't go correctly, or when guys are covered, when you've got to start going through your progressions, that is where Brock Purdy really shines. And where we saw some of the limitations with Mac Jones. He is not the most mobile. There were a few plays where he took some sacks, maybe held onto the ball a little bit too long, for example, in that fumble. Now, on the TV broadcast, when you watch that fumble, it seems like it happened pretty quick. But when you look back at the film, Mac is just kind of sitting back there and hitch, and doesn't let the ball go. And there were actually a few plays where Mac missed open guys or just wasn't able to make the throw that I think Purdy would have been able to. He had Jawan Jennings wide open. I think it was Jawan Jennings on it was almost like a stop and go. It was similar to the Ricky Pearsall route last week. He just missed it. But like I've been saying saying all offseason, Mac Jones is a really, really solid backup quarterback, and he's a guy that can win you games, especially in this system. And he did look really good in the 2-minute offense as well. That play they ran to CMC for his touchdown, that was beautifully run. And I want to see more of that in this Shanahan offense, the drop back passing game, where I've never seen them run that play before. At least I don't recall that. Maybe they've run it with someone else who wasn't CMC. That was just a beautiful play call. Perfect call for that situation right at the end of the half. So yeah, Mac Jones deserves some credit. He played well. And if you look strictly at the stat sheet, there are going to be people who say he should start over Purdy, or there's this quarterback controversy, and I just don't see it. Like, he was good, but Purdy elevates this offense to be great, and hopefully he can be back soon. This upcoming match against the Cardinals is going to be a tough test, and I don't know, Mac Jones might be able to get it done, but against an offense or defense, I don't know. That's makes me a little bit nervous. And if we'll talk about the Cardinals game a little bit later in this episode, but if the Niners do lose this game to Arizona, then I really hope we see Purdy for the Rams game coming off a short week on Thursday Night Football, because it would be rough to lose not only this divisional game but another one. And I think Brock gives this team the best chance to win both games. I don't think he'll be back for this one, but against LA, it depends. I don't want him to be rushed back. So if they win on Sunday, then I don't necessarily think he needs to rush back for the Rams game. Although it would be nice to potentially try and move to 3-0 in the division early on in the season. That would be huge. But again, it's all dependent on what happens on Sunday, and we're going to talk about that later. What else do I want to talk about the Saints game real quick? Fred Warner, man. He is light years above everyone else for the linebacker spot in the NFL. He is the linebacker one, and it's not even close. He is so far above everyone else that it's just ridiculous. He had that punch out against Alvin Kamara. He was flying around. It's good to see Fred Warner healthy again. I know last year he played through a fractured ankle and still looked really awesome, but this year he's so good. It was really interesting to see Jair Brown play in the nickel a little bit. I think he said they're running the big nickel, which is something I've talked about with the Niners for a while, where essentially you run nickel, but instead of a cornerback coming in, it's another safety. So that was cool. Really interesting to see that. And I feel like he played well. He flashed a few times. I've been a big Jair Brown advocate. And if this is his role, I like it, quite honestly. Any other points? We were running a little bit late to the game just because when you have a kid, man, especially a young kid who's on her own schedule, you just run late to things. you gotta, sometimes you don't really have a choice, but we were running late and I wanted to say before the game to my dad and brother, I was going to tell him, so are we going to laugh or cry when Eddie Pinheiro misses his first 26-yard field goal? And then he missed the extra point. Objectively, it was just, that is the funniest thing that could have happened on that extra point attempt. I did tell my dad and brother that Eddie Pinheiro has the worst, although he is number 3, or he was number 3 or number 4 in all-time field goal percentage. He had a worse extra point percentage than Jake Moody. So that was funny, but he hit a couple other field goals. He looked really good on those ones and all the other extra points. So I'm not mad. I like Pinheiro, I should say. And what else? CMC. Yeah, CMC didn't look great in the running game, but in the passing game, I think that's where he really shined this week, and that's where he is such a weapon. You can use him as a running back, but you can also use him as a receiver. With Kyle Juszczyk being in the concussion protocol, we saw the Niners go to a lot of just 2 tight end sets, 3 receiver sets. And I've been saying, this offense, they look pretty good without Kyle Juszczyk. And I like Kyle Juszczyk, but they just don't use him. They don't use him. the way that I feel like they should. And quite honestly, I'd rather have tight ends. Like, he might be able to fill a tight end role, but I don't think a tight end can fill his role because it's so specific. And Jake Tonjes tried to do that. He did all right. Jake Tonjes and Luke Farrell. I was really annoyed at Underdog Fantasy because I was like, Luke Farrell's going to score a touchdown in this game. And in years past, they had so many players you can choose from for touchdowns and just in general. You can choose something they're going to do. And I was looking for Luke Farrell, and they didn't have him. I was like, this is going to be a Luke Farrell touchdown game. And I was so mad because I wanted to pick him. I had a feeling, but he wasn't in the app, so that was great. So it was good to see him get his first NFL touchdown. But anyway, going back to CMC, I've been saying this season the Niners should go to a 2 running back system, especially with how many receivers have been out. CMC can go out there and play receiver. You can bring in Brian Robinson and CMC, and then defense it. You could get creative with that. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's supposed to be one of the most creative minds in the NFL, and maybe he's going to have to do that now with Kyle Juszczyk in the concussion protocol. Besides that, I don't know that I have anything else I want to say. Juwan Jennings, at least about this game. Juwan Jennings looked solid despite having a shoulder injury that was limiting his movement. Pearsall looked decent, didn't have the biggest stat line, but he looked good. Kendrick Bourne looked good when the Niners started getting some of their receivers back. I think Marquez Valdez-Scantling is probably the odd man out. He just hasn't done very much at this point, and it seems like he might be the one that's on his way out whenever Demarcus Robinson comes back, and I want to see the rookie too, Jordan Watkins. I really want to see him because he showed some potential in the preseason, and who knows what's going to happen with Juszczyk. Just a situation where they could use another roster spot, Anyway, that's going to do it for the Saints game. I think I covered everything I wanted to. So let's move on to the next topic. Actually, just thought of one more thing. How could I not talk about this? The defense coming up clutch at the end of the game. This time it was Bryce Huff. Man, I literally looked down for like half a second when that play started, and I just hear my brother reacting to it, and come to find out, Bryce Huff got to the quarterback in 2 seconds, forced a fumble, and then they recovered the ball to end the game there. But wow, it was really cool to see the defense step up in that moment again. This team's got some closers, as they talked about a little bit. I think Shanahan said you don't talk about players as closers that often, but Bryce Huff and Nick Bosa are 2 closers, so that was really cool. Bryce Huff, I thought, would be a really good fit on this team, and it was cool to see him step up in that moment. Last week it was Bosa, this week it was Huff, and a guy that was flashing a little bit, Mykel Williams. He was my pick for Defensive Player of the Year for a rookie, and in this game he had 2 tackles for loss. I think he's just getting started. He's just getting warmed up. We can expect a lot more Mykel Williams going forward, but he showed some really good things in this game too. It's only a matter of time before he gets in the backfield for a sack, before he makes his own big plays. I mean, he made some really good tackles in this game in the backfield, like I said. There's a play where I think a tight end was on him, and he's just bullying the tight end and got the tackle for like 3 yards for a 3-yard loss. But yeah, this defense is, while they do have some things they can work on, I feel like they are gelling a little bit, right? And that's the thing, is you can start to gel and still have things to improve upon, like tackling. And I have no doubt that Robert Saleh is going to get that figured out. And once they do, man, not to mention Mustafa is going to be coming back at some point. Yeah, this defense is only getting started. And I'm not saying they played bad. I'm just saying they have some things they can still work on. This can be a top flight defense in this league. That's why I'm saying I wouldn't call the Niners Super Bowl contenders yet, but if the offense can get going, get fully healthy, and the defense can gel and just get the fundamentals down, this team can look scary. And I have zero doubt in Robert Saleh and this defense. Let's move forward to the Arizona Cardinals. Now, heading into this game, it's questionable what's going to happen at quarterback. It was very interesting this week. Thursdays, usually they have the the defensive coordinator, another coordinator, and the quarterback do their press conferences. And this week they had both Mac Jones and Brock Purdy at the podium. Brock, from what he said, it made it sound like he was almost like a game time decision. Really depends on how he feels that day. But really interesting quarterback situation this Sunday. My thought behind it, my thought is if Brock isn't fully healthy, then you've got to play Mac in this game. Originally, I don't know if I talked about this earlier in this podcast or not. I honestly don't remember. It's been a few days since I recorded, but I think I got confused, and I know I've said something on Twitter about this. I said that if Brock isn't good to go for this game, he should rest because the Rams come to town. But they play the Rams on Thursday Night Football. However, that's not next weekend. That's not next week. That's the week after that. So their schedule is the Cardinals and then the Jaguars and then the Rams. So I had it confused. I thought the Rams were next after Arizona. So yeah, I really think either way, you've got to rest Brock. Have him in there as a backup to Mac Jones in this game, because you cannot risk Brock's long-term health, especially if it's like a turf toe type injury. We all saw what happened with Joe Burrow this weekend. He's going to miss most of the season. He's going to be out for 3 months because he had to have surgery to repair to fix his turf toe. So that is something the 49ers aren't super clear on what Brock's injury is. Shanahan said it was like turf toe. It was pretty similar. So I don't know what exactly that means. Like, is there a chance if he plays through it, he can completely tear it, kind of like Joe Burrow, and miss most of the season? Because if that's the case, then yeah, you should absolutely rest him, or at the very least, have him as the backup quarterback option. I think Mac Jones is capable of beating Arizona. He looked good last week, like I mentioned earlier in the episode. Some challenges, though, that come this week. It's kind of twofold with Arizona. They have a slew of injuries to their defensive back room. So, you know what? We're just going to start there. We're going to start with the injury report. So, for the 49ers, Spencer Burford and Jordan Watkins have been ruled out of the game. A surprising addition to the injury report was Connor Colby. He has been getting a lot of praise. He went in for the injured Ben Barch on Sunday, and he played really well. He had an opportunity to take the starter position and run with it. But with this questionable designation, who knows if he's going to be able to play or what he's going to look like. That is just really unfortunate. Injuries in practice that's never fun. And Jordan Watkins was actually one of those guys too. He's been ruled out. Apparently he's a candidate for IR simply because he cannot stay healthy, man. It's pretty crazy, but really at this point, we shouldn't be surprised by any 49ers injury news. Hopefully, a calf. What was he just dealing with? Was it a hamstring? Man, that's too bad. Adding to that, Juwan Jennings hasn't practiced all week. He's dealing with an ankle and a shoulder. So who knows if he's going to go. Apparently, Underdog Fantasy believes he is good to go because they have him available for the picks. They don't even have Ricky Pearsall on there. They don't have Mac Jones or Brock Purdy. It's crazy. And of course, Brock Purdy, who I already talked about, is questionable with his, they still list left shoulder and toe, but he said his shoulder's good. Now for the Cardinals, doubtful, Will Johnson, groin, so he's most likely out. Questionable, it's like a 50% chance. Will Hernandez, Paris Johnson, Max Milton, Tip Raymond. So as far as that goes, and a couple of other things to talk about. Kyle Juszczyk and Saran Neal, looks like they have been upgraded in the concussion protocol. Yesterday they were in the blue non-contact uniforms, and today they were not wearing those uniforms, which usually indicates that they're good to go for the game. So that's, that is quite the injury report. And we're going to talk about what the keys are for the 49ers in this game. I think the key is, unfortunately for the Cardinals, the 49ers are going to have to go after these defensive backs. Now, unfortunately, the Niners may not have Juwan Jennings, so it's not going to be it's going to be more of a challenge. I don't know who is going to be playing out there for the corner for the Arizona Cardinals as their cornerbacks, but I think that one of the keys is to attack them. You've got to go after those guys. And this is kind of a double-edged sword, because if you go pass heavy, Arizona has a really strong defensive line. I think much better than the Saints and the Seahawks. So if the offensive line has to hold up in order for this to work. And they've done okay the last few weeks. I think the 49ers, if I'm a head coach and I'm looking at this defense with all their backups at the defensive, in the defensive back position, you're running a lot of, the 49ers don't really run a lot of trips, but a lot of, misdirection, pick plays, crossing patterns, stuff that can confuse a defense when you're dealing with backups. Quick patterns, get the ball out of Mac Jones' hands. We're gonna assume that Mac Jones is gonna be quarterback one this week. Get the ball out of Mac Jones' hands quickly, and quite contrary to what I said last week, where the 49ers, I would disagree with the idea of coming out and going pass heavy. This week is the exact opposite for me. This is the week you go out and you play pass heavy, because the Arizona Cardinals do have a pretty solid run defense so far this season, but I don't know. I think you've got to open it up with some quick passing, and then from there you attack them with the run, and then you could go to play action and hit him in a few different ways. Defensively, the key is just the two main keys really: tackle and contain Kyler Murray. James Conner has been notoriously successful against the 49ers, and part of that is just not being able to tackle him. And last week, the 49ers had some missed tackle problems against another guy in Alvin Kamara, who, is a little bit older, but he's still solid. And I think the same goes for James Conner. You've got to be able to take him down. And as far as containing Kyler Murray, that's where I think he is the biggest threat to the 49ers now. Teams have been going after Renardo Green a little bit, and I think part of that is because of how good Deommodore Lenoir is. I would rather much throw to anyone besides Deommodore Lenoir, so I think that's part of the reason why Renardo Green seems to be targeted a little bit more this season, is just because teams don't want to throw towards Demo. So yeah, he's going to have some good plays. He's going to have some bad plays. So it's going to be interesting to see his matchup with Marvin Harrison. And the Cardinals have played the 49ers tough over the years. This isn't going to be some easy win for the 49ers. And both teams are, of course, 2-0. The 49ers, I think, should really, really want to win this game. They have the opportunity to go 3-0 on the season, and even more importantly, 2-0 within the division. And that would be, you in the NFL, you want to try to get ahead as early as you can. That will set you up for success. And, the Seahawks, of course, 1-1 at this point. The Rams are also 2-0, just like the Cardinals and Niners. But they have a more difficult opponent this week in the Philadelphia Eagles. So, yeah, I think it's so key for the 49ers to win this game and then just get a little bit of ahead. Of course, it's still early in the season. It's not going to make or break the season or anything like that. But this is one that you want to get under your belt as soon as possible. With that being said, let's get to my score prediction. The 49ers are 2.5-point favorites, and really, what I think this comes down to, there are a few things that we've seen this season. The 49ers have been closing out games, something they didn't do last year, and they've been figuring out how to win tough battles. This season, the Cardinals have been almost blowing games right at the end, both against the Saints and against the Panthers. They almost gave up their wins. So with ultimately the injuries at cornerback are going to be a little bit too much to overcome for the Cardinals. I think Mac Jones will have a decent game. McCaffrey will be really solid. This might be his best game so far this season. And the Niners will close out a very tight contest, winning this one 23-21. And that's going to be a wrap for this episode. Thank you for everyone that listened. A little bit of a short episode today. It's funny, when I recorded the Saints reaction, I thought that was going to be like a quick 5-minute thing and ended up taking up, I think, most of the episode. And with the Cardinals, I just haven't had enough time to record. Got to get the episode up. So yeah, we'll see. I also am not super excited because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to watch this game. I might try to listen to it. We'll see. That didn't work out for me last time. But yeah, it's one of those games I might not get to watch. Unfortunately, for some reason, the Cowboys and Bears is the America's Game of the Week because of, the Cowboys. It's really stupid. I don't know anyone that would rather watch that game rather than 2-0 NFC West teams fighting for the top of the division early in the season. But it's whatever. We'll see. We'll see how things go. Please like this video, subscribe if you haven't yet. If you're on Spotify, follow me. And that's going to do it. Thanks again for listening. This has been Sports Time with Chris.